Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our Saturday rehearsal now. Our Saturday rehearsal was a proper full rehearsal, um, the longer than an NTC session. So we're hoping to get all of the things ironed out as well as our tech run to be able to go through it. So I'm going to talk a bit about my intentions, what I wanted to get done, and then what we actually got done. So personally, I thought that we definitely need to get the tech run done with all the lights and all the purpose of that. With like the transitions and everything. We didn't have time to sort out any sort of music to use or any sort of sound effects because we didn't pair it in time. As well trying to focus on using the cast capability and not confusing them because we didn't have hardly any cast and we've never done a full run through yet because we've not had enough people. So in terms of that, we need to make sure that we get all of that done. I thought we need to get the waffle monologue and the use of the waffle in time to that, seeing as I've planned it all out so that there are moments in which could emphasise using the waffle and so that they don't spread in the waffle for ages. Using costume at the same time and the use of props such as the skateboard that we added in. We had Joe come in on a skateboard at the later stage. Just before, like, I think it was last rehearsal, we introduced that idea. So the use of that because he needs to know how to fall off it and things, which we tried to practice with him before, but because he didn't know his lines, it was really difficult to do that. So hopefully trying to get that bit done. The use of other props such as the sweets, more specifically the phones and the earphones at one point during Richard's monologue. Um, so trying to get all of the bits to iron out and to get the transitions on point so that everybody knows the running order and they're on the right side of the stage that they need to be. So, and using the set with it as well to collect like twigs and leaves and things to make it look more like a natural den. So, in terms of that, I'm going to talk about what we actually achieved and what setbacks we had as well. So, as we came into the rehearsal, we had to come in later because Nasifa could not come in at a certain point, but then it turned out that she could not come in at all. So, we did not have Nasifa for the Saturday rehearsal. And we also received a call saying that John could not come in either, so we did not have Brian or Jan, and Mark had to be in the other rehearsal. So those are some immediate difficulties that we faced because we were planning on doing a full run through at least once. But it turned out that we couldn't even do a full run through with the whole cast because the full cast were not there. In our last rehearsal as well, I forgot to mention as a critical point when Chip came into our rehearsal, he said that in our big scene it was quite static and that he thought that John's character, Brian, would move around more. We did start to think this as well, but because we didn't have enough cast to him to interact with or to be able to sort of change this because as well he hadn't known his lines, so we're still reading off script, we were going to change it on the Saturday rehearsal so that he could move around more, but he's not there, so we are faced with the dilemma of wanting to change it from a directorial point of view, but then for him to be able to be capable of doing that because it will be a last minute decision. And it may mess him up in terms of remembering lines or remembering what to do next. So that's going to be a real directing decision that we're going to have to undertake. Next, so we looked at the waffle monologue with the use of the waffle, Romario's action. It worked really effectively quite a few times, and we managed to get it so that the timing was right, so that he put jam on the waffle, and there was this interaction time where he sort of reacted to Leah and then went back to the waffle with the other two jumping in. We couldn't really practice that bit because neither of them were there, with Jan and Mark not coming in, but the actual actions themselves worked really well. They were really effective, and I think that it showed into our intentions really well in this Saturday rehearsal. So, in terms of the big scene, we couldn't really run through any of the changes we wanted to make or rearrange where people were or the positioning. All we did was turn Romario off to the side as Phil to show how he's sort of separate from the situation at this point. As Chip said, that he seems too involved and he needs to be a bit more of an outsider. So we changed his positioning slightly to tilt away so that his status was still up the top, because it is. He's still one of the highest at this point in the hierarchy of the group of friends, but it shows that he doesn't really paying much attention to the what's going on. Transition ideas and the ideas of backstage. We thought about trying to get them as fluid as we could, and most of the ideas were scrapped at this point, mainly due to the fact that it was just not enough time or capability for people to come on and to be abstract. Well, not abstract because we want it to be naturalistic, but to be a bit more unique with the way that we came on in the transitions, to show this idea of hierarchy or anything like that. So we kept it with the way we came on the big scene, which is a gradual entrance of them dragging Adam on and then like getting into their positions in character. But in all the other transitions, there was no other time to do anything or make it more unique. And I've talked about some potential ideas of using sound that would have emphasised this potentially, or them coming in more in character. We maybe made that not clear enough at this stage, but we've not really had time to focus on that. So in last minute, maybe we will, but in our intentions are trying to keep it as naturalistic as possible. So we came up with the ideas of trying to keep it naturalistic and just make sure that they knew what they were doing above going wrong and overcomplicating things. We did a tech run. This was really difficult to do because the communication between me and Hannah was quite strained at this process, because I think she found them quite difficult to do and to do quickly. We got some of our intentions across of using daylight, the hints to daylight and the time and duration and passing of time over the whole period, and we talked extensively about the lighting and in a separate blog, and what we thought went well about it and what we were going to use, and the use of colour and the use of surroundings and how it made the prop the set look. So we talked a lot about that in our other blog, but that was mainly what we managed to get through on Saturday. Saturday wasn't really that successful in terms of what we actually wanted to get done, because of the lack of cast. I think that some aspects and some scenes were better. We managed to go through Leah's monologue several times so that our intentions are definitely shown through some of what she was doing, but also most people hadn't learned their lines, especially Joe as Richard. We had him do his monologue and he didn't know any of his lines, so there was a lack of enthusiasm from the start. But with him not knowing his lines, there was even more focus on the lines instead of the actual acting itself. So we definitely need to make sure he knows them solidly, and we spent at least an hour or so going through it with him. So it was a major setback in what we wanted to do. So afterwards, discussing things with Hannah and after the rehearsal itself, the use of aesthetic and atmosphere was something that we'd built up a lot. So we liked the way that it looked in the bid scene at certain points. So we're going to build this up with the idea of leaves and the skateboards. We might add in other aesthetics. We have the idea of costume, and some scenes themselves as separate moments do show a lot of characterization. So as a result of that, we on Monday are going to have to do an actual full run, because we've not been able to achieve that yet, and we're going to have to decide whether we will change the group movement in the big scene or not, because everyone should know their lines definitely by then, even though they didn't for our Saturday rehearsal.